Make sure that in today's session, which is for strengthening and stretching, especially gluteal muscles, the sides of your hips and the buttocks, for this practice, you want to have a yoga block, a yoga strap, a chair, and what else did I say? A bolster. So if you gather those things, then we can begin in just a moment. And what we'll begin with is uh, some yoga breathing. Sometimes it's called box breathing or square breathing. So it's nice to have that image in mind because we're going to make the shape of a square with the breath. So take a comfortable seat. You can also do this lying down if you need to, but for this um, particular practice, best sitting up. And then find your good yoga posture where you're upright but not uptight. Relax your shoulders. And then if you like, in order to begin, you might close your eyes or cast your gaze downwards. And just notice your normal breathing, the pace and the depth of your breathing, and where you can locate it in your body. As you begin to concentrate and focus, make sure that your facial features are relaxed, especially between your brows, your forehead. And I'll give you a pace for the breathing, which is just to create a little bit more anchoring of your attention. And we'll begin inhaling for a 3 count, just a simple 3 count. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, and exhaling, 1, 2, 3. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3. Let's increase the count to 4. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try increasing the count to 5 now. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take a pause. We'll add the retained breath at the top of the inhalation. And you just experimented with a few rates of breathing. So land on the one that suits you at this time, and we'll go with that. So a retained breath is just a held breath, but in the most relaxed way that you can manage. And let's begin. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Held breath. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The retained breath for the 5 count. And starting the next cycle in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Retaining the breath, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Retaining the breath. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, exhale, held breath. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Retaining, relaxed retention. And again, inhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Holding the breath, relax your shoulders. Exhaling, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Holding the breath. Do 2 cycles all on your own with the inhalation, held breath, exhalation, held breath. And then completing those cycles, not rushing through, but whenever you're finished, and then opening your eyes again. And then just stay quiet for another few breaths and allow your breath to come back to its natural organic rhythm. And now let's move to the mat. We'll do a warm-up lying on your back, legs bent, feet on the floor. So this is our opportunity, and right from the beginning, to take a few breaths to relax into reclining position. Feel your 2 feet on the floor, your footprints of your feet, and your arms just loose a little distance from the side of your body. And settling in, just bring your hands across the abdomen, one above the navel, one below the navel, and come back to your breath again. So soft breathing in and out. And then have both hands in the lower abdominal area below the navel. And feel this as not just a physical, muscular area, but an energetic center in terms of yoga physiology. This is the area of apana. And we're going to work with this area for a few warm-up exercises. So simply bend your right knee in towards your chest, hold at the front of your knee, and move your knee a little bit to the side. So your knee lines up more with your shoulder, your right shoulder or your armpit. And then let's begin some movements with the breath. Inhaling, moving your knee away from you, straightening your arms. Exhale, drawing your thigh bone closer to your chest. Let's move through those 2 movements. And remember, you're just warming up. And the knee is in flexion. Now you're working with hip flexion. And so bringing some energy into that hip joint and into the lower abdominal area, especially as you draw the knee towards you. Inhaling to exhaling. You might want to extend your breath a little bit so you feel more the depth of the breath. And then the next time as you bring your knee in, release your hands and drop your arms to the side. And then exhale and extend that leg out parallel to the floor, just a little distance. And then bend the knee right back in where you were. Exhaling the knee in, inhaling the leg into extension. Take this movement as far as you want to go, but make sure that you're feeling still that energetic center of the lower abdomen. Exhaling, there's a little bit more depth through the navel center. Inhaling, you're going to keep that area slightly restricted as you breathe in. And then knee towards you again, the heels towards the buttock. Slip your hands around towards the back of the knee. And then on the inhalation now, extend the leg up towards the ceiling. And let's work between bent knee and straightening the knee. We're not going towards our maximum, but just really exploring your movement. And also feeling that again in the space between the navel and the pubic bone. Okay, lovely. And then bring your right foot back to the floor. Settle in. So you're lying in a straight line. Feel your footing again. Kind of grounding action through your feet. And then bring your left knee in towards your chest. Clutch at the front of the knee. And then go back and forth between those two simple movements. If you keep a little pressure onto your right foot as you work through these movements, then the pelvis might feel like it's more centered, more even on the both sides of the back body. And moving into straightening the leg and the arms released, and then stretching that leg away from you. Only go as far as you can still feel the energetic center of the lower abdomen and the anchoring of the back body, especially the sacrum. Working with the breath as the breath animates the movement. All right, and then let's slip into hands behind the back of the thigh and leg extension and flexing the leg. Feel that these movements that take us away from the center of gravity, which is the lower abdominal area, we're still holding there, holding firmly. And the last time that you bend your left leg in, then bend your right knee in next to its mate. Hold at the front of your knees with fingers pointing in, and then let's do the double leg movement. So we could say this is like a bellows breath, and exhaling and inhaling. Feel your sitting bones moving towards the floor if you can manage this adjustment when you bring your knees close to you. When the sitting bones move closer to the floor, you've got a little bit more space for the sacrum, for the sits bones, and for the pelvic floor too. All right, and then what will it be like here? Slip your hands around the backs of the knees again and do your extension through your legs, both legs at the same time. Let's point the toes on the leg extension and then flex the toes as you bring your knees towards your chest. And then let's move between those two movements for the feet too. Plantarflexion, dorsiflexion. Breath in, breath out. And the last one, and the legs straight up. And then keep the knees close to you. Slip your hands back around to the front of your knees. And then let's do a little lift through the head and shoulders. Come off the floor, lift up a little bit. Your gaze is on the ceiling, looking up. And then exhale, lowering down. Inhale, lifting up. Exhale, coming down. Now that pattern of breath might be better if you exhale coming up. Just find your own breathing pattern that works. And we'll do two more. So I can feel much greater squeeze through my abdomen as I do this. All right, and last one, and bringing the feet back to the floor. Feet hip-width apart, and arms a little distance out to the side, elbows relaxed. Let's move on to, which is really a counter pose for the contraction through the abdominal muscles, some bridge variations. And we'll start with this one, which looks a lot like Baddha Konasana. So bring the feet all the way together and the edges of the feet, and then let your knees drop out to the side. So the legs are butterflied out, and your weight is on the outer spine of your feet. When I do this, I'm getting a considerable stretch through my groins, and if I want to lessen that, weaken that a little bit, I can make my hands into two fists and support the outer top thigh bones with my hands. Or perhaps you don't want to do that and you just let your legs completely roll out. Keep your weight on the spine of the feet and then lift your hips a little bit off the floor and move your tailbone away from you. So you're in a tiny hip lift, and then exhale and come down. Let's do that movement a couple of times. It's a pretty unusual movement to do, and see if you can get a sense of the kind of motor planning that you have to do to be able to lift up like that, which are the muscle groups that help you, what tightens up unnecessarily. And let's do this just one more time. And in this last time, see if you can avoid tightening the groins. Can you let your feet support you and use your outer hip muscles? You could palpate a little bit there and feel those muscles when they're working. And then releasing back to the floor and 2 feet on the floor again. Allow your hands to rest onto the belly again and feel your normal breathing or the breath as it returns to normal if it was at all rough. And then take a deep, really deep breath in. Fill your lungs all the way to the top of your chest and let your abdomen inflate completely. And then exhale and allow the abdomen to deflate as it moves, the abdominal wall moves into the body. Let's go back and forth between those two breath movements. So really all you're doing is filling and allowing the belly muscles to stretch a bit with the inhalation, and then exhaling and allow those abdominal muscles to contract towards the floor. More to the point is that when you do this movement in a more exaggerated breath cycle like we're doing, then there's a little rocking through the back of the pelvis. Can you feel that? So we're just trying to discover a pelvic tilt, from forward to backward pelvic tilt. That's the movement that will take into your back bends, your little bridges. And now leave your arms to the side and press your feet into the floor and do a lift off once again. Hips come up. Inhale fully and exhale, come back down to the floor and releasing the spine all the way to the tailbone. Keep your feet engaged and coming all the way up. And all the way down. We're going to do a stronger movement in a moment. And just to make sure that your knees are tracking straight, we'll use a foam block, a yoga block between your knees. So grab onto that. I've got my block in the mid-range. So not narrow, but just in that mid-range area. And not on the knee bones, but just above the knees on the fleshy part of the inner thighs. So with a little pressure there, so think about 20%, so no more than that, but just enough so that you feel the engagement of the inner thigh muscles and maybe even the outer hips. And then next time that we lift off, anchor your feet to the floor and let's bring the arms into the movement. So lifting up and the arms stretch overhead and your tailbone moves away. And then exhale, articulating the spine and bringing the arms on the exhalation all the way back to home. Come on up again in your own time, as little or as much as you want at this point. And then back to the ground and exhale all the way down. Take a break. Bring your hands onto your outer hips. So now I've got the flat of my palms against my outer hips, and we're going to do the lift off again. And see if this time you can lift from the outer hips. The thighs are turning in, the block is held, and that means you can release some of the strong muscles on the inside of your buttocks as you come up. And then coming back to the floor. So you're not clenching the buttocks, but you're just holding them firm. Let's go back to the arm stretch overhead. That was a really lovely movement. And then as you bring your arms up and lift off, take the arms into this position in a held position. Keep the lift of the bridge and see if now you can move your thigh bones away from your hips. Thigh bones moving away and fingertips moving away from the chest. And then exhale back to the ground and see what you're noticing along the way. Pressing that light pressure onto the block one more time and coming up. Chest moving towards your shoulders, the thigh bones moving towards your knees, and the lift coming from the backs of your thighs, and then back down to the ground. Good. And wait there. This takes the block away. So it's done its job. So it's kept the thigh bones parallel. Step your feet all the way in towards you. Slide your heels as close into the buttocks. And then lift up your heels with that heel raise. Then see if you can bring your feet in just a little bit closer to you. Now the balance of weight is on the base of my toes, the backs of my toes. So this is going to come in handy when we do a balancing exercise a little bit later when we've done a heel raise. So see if with the heels raised, now you can lift your buttocks and come up a little or more, or maximally if you like, and your back is ready for that. And then feel that lift from the outer hips. Feel that lift from the backs of your thighs. And then lowering down the whole length of your spinal column, vertebra by vertebra, all the way to its base. You're still up on the backs of your toes. Let's do it again. Can you press a little bit more on the base of your big toe? In acupuncture or oriental medicine, that's called kidney 1 point, a very one important point. And then down again and all the way down and resting there. All right, and then feet flat on the floor again, supported firmly. Bring your knees and your feet all the way together. And let's challenge what you were doing in the bridge poses if you want to take this next step, or you can just practice what you were doing with your feet apart. We're going to do a one-legged balance. So first, press your feet and the whole outline of your feet into the mat. You'll begin to lift your hips a little bit off the floor. Balance your weight just onto your left foot and lift your right knee in towards your chest. Then, if you like to take that next challenge, extend that leg up towards the ceiling. Feel that weight through your weight-bearing foot, your left foot, and then fold that leg down. Both feet on the floor. Pause right there, legs and feet together. Relax through your shoulders or anchor through your upper shoulders and your shoulder blades. And then press your right foot, make your footprint there, and then bring your left knee, left foot off the floor, left knee towards your chest, and extend that leg as much or as little as you feel that you want to at this point. And then fold that leg down again, 2 feet on the floor, and come all the way to ground. Do that whole cycle for one more time. See if you can avoid a sway through the hips as you make your left foot impression strong into your mat and start to lift off your right leg and all the way up and stretching up. And as you're ready, take a little break, lowering down before you switch sides. Sometimes when the leg is raised, you can lift up a little higher if you choose to. And take a steady position, both feet, and lowering all the way down. Draw your tailbone away from you as you lower down. And then extend out your legs. Let's counterpose what we're doing with some rotation for your spine. Bend your legs once more. And let's do this version of a floor twist. Walk your feet step, step, step over to the right side. Lift your hips off the floor and shift your hips to the right side in line with your feet. From there, lift your feet off the floor, bring your thighs towards your chest, and then across body, you're bringing your legs across your body towards your left arm, and then turn your head to the right if that's a comfortable movement. Keep your anchor strong through your right arm and your right shoulder. And then come all the way back to center with your knees, feet back on the floor, hips back to center. Then take your walk, step, step, step to the left side, hips up, shift your hips to the left, and bring your thighs towards your ribs, that Apanasana movement, and then across on the diagonal towards your right arm, look left. Good. Keep that left shoulder blade firmly grounded, and then knees to center, feet to the floor, step in, and all the way straightening up again. Just checking to see whether you're lying in a straight line. And then let's do that all over again in your own time. So shifting feet and hips to the right side and thighs towards you, squeezing in. If you can, use those adductor muscles, the inner thigh muscles, and keep your feet and your legs together. Center yourself. Let's shift all the way over for that last side. And cross diagonal movement of the legs over to the right. Strong pressure through the left side, back to center. And let's come to the floor. Straighten out the torso, straight line lying on your mat. And then let's do one more, which brings the twist a little bit more to the upper back. So step your feet wide apart. In a generous stance of your feet, let your knees drop to the right side. And then take your left arm overhead along the floor and stretch it out. Duck your chin in towards your left armpit and stretch the left knee away from your left arm. Beautiful. And then fold that arm in. Take the knees to the left side. Extend your right arm overhead. Stretch away
through the whole right side of your body, waist and ribs and armpit. And then let's go one more time, and knees to the right. When you take that arm overhead, and then let your head roll around towards the right shoulder, and then maybe even roll up onto your right shoulder. And take a deep breath into the side body, and then let's switch all of that over to the last side, to the left. Knees left, right arm overhead. Look left, and as you roll towards the left side, turning your head, nose towards the floor. And stay on that left side because we're going to come all the way up to standing. Use your hands to help you lift your head and your chest, and up to standing. Beautiful. Time to grab your chair. I'll go this way and have a seat. Scoot your buttocks forward, nearer to the edge of the chair. There's about 2/3 in the back of the chair, and then 1/3 of the chair where you're sitting at the front. So I'm going to take my block again and place it where it was between my thighs and hug in against the block. Let your hands rest onto your thighs, and then press your feet really strongly into the floor and allow your trunk to come into a slightly pitched forward position. And then lighten your weight onto your feet. And let's alternate between that forward movement and then rolling back. Basically what you're doing is a little bit of the pelvic tilting that you were doing in preparation for the bridges, but you're now doing it in a seated position. And this is going to give you the momentum to stand from that forward tilt of your pelvis. So pressing your feet and releasing your hands and coming up to standing. Good. Too simple. And then releasing back to the chair in that pitched forward position and sitting upright. Let's go again. Okay. Feel how much you need your feet to develop that flexion through your hips. Press your heels perhaps a little bit more than the forefoot, and keep the knees tracking straight, even pressure on the block. The next time that we stand up, we're not quite going to sit down, so take a kind of semi-squat here. Move your sitting bones back. At some point it feels like you're not quite sure if the chair is going to be there, but it hasn't moved, and then you have a seat. And then let's take the hover in coming up. So as you press strongly into your feet and press against the block, you're in that partial squat position again. And happily coming all the way up to standing. And from there, we've done a warm-up, so let's take that to the wall. We'll come back to using the chair a little bit later, so off to the side. And when you take advantage of a wall space, you might need a moment to clear a space, I understand. You'll use the wall for support. It's quite lovely. So leaning back against the wall. and stepping your feet about 35 or 40 centimeters away from the wall. My feet are hip width distance. And initially feel into your back body. I have a little more pressure at the base of my spine on my sacrum, and hopefully even on right side and left side. So the walls slide as you bend your knees and lower down. I've got my hands resting on my thighs, and it's a feeling of the thigh muscles switching on and drawing back from the front of the knee into my hip fold. That's a really supportive movement. And then let's come up again. Now we don't have the block there, but as though you had the block, and holding the block firmly with the inner thigh muscles, let's go again. So feel into where the thigh bones end at the patellas and draw back that big thigh bone into its housing, into the hip socket, and holding that position through the strength of your leg muscles and I think the outer hips too. And then coming up. And we'll do one more wall slide, and I'll time us for a minute. And this isn't a competition, and especially not a competition with yourself. So I'll time us for a minute, and it'll give you an idea about how long you can hold the pose for. But definitely don't be judging yourself if you have to come out of the pose earlier than a minute. And then here we go, and into our wall squat. And into the support of the back body, even your shoulder blades or the back of your head supporting. Let your shoulders go, and then connect with your breath again. So for as much as possible, the breath is a flowing breath in and out. And just for encouragement, this is a halfway time now. And maybe it's not true that time flies. And just in the last part, see whether you can transfer a little bit more weight onto the front of the heels. You've got that imaginary block there. And your face is relaxed. You might even create an inner smile. And then 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and coming all the way up. And then as you step away or push away from the wall, give your feet and your legs a bit of a shake out. Especially, you might even jiggle with your hands the quadricep. That's quite a nice movement. Okay, well done. And then let's take that into freestanding Utkatasana. Will we use the block? No. So get a sense that you've still got a block between the thighs. Have your feet a little bit apart. And then simply bend your knees and bring your arms up alongside your ears. Utkatasana. Move the sitting bones back. Lift your tail just a little bit and feel the weight again right at the front of your heel bones. And exhale, lower your arms. Good. Relaxed and relaxed in your breathing. This time, let's work with the heel raise that I predicted we were going to do. When you raise your arms and take your partial squat, now we're going to lift heels too. And even here, like you did in the preparation in the bridges, can you keep your weight towards the inside of the foot, onto the base of your big toe? And then keeping the heels lifted and inhaling and coming all the way up and gradually lowering the arms and the heels. Sometimes that happens a lot more quickly than gradually, and that's all right. All right, and then let's take our seated position again. Well, imaginary seat, moving your buttocks back, lifting your tail a little bit, and then lifting your heels.
Now, holding the pose doesn't mean holding your breath. Keep the breath flowing as much as you can, and even as you come all the way up, and exhale, lowering arms and heels. Well done. Let's put that together in vinyasa, a couple of connected movements connected with the breath. So we'll go Uttanasana. So have your feet a little bit apart, like Tadasana, your home base. Feel the whole outline of your feet. Maybe bring your hands across your navel center again and feel that again as an energetic center of your body. And without tension drawing up from your pubic bone to your navel. And then holding firmly from with the outer hips, inhale, bring your arms up. And then let's forward fold into Uttanasana. As you do that, feel that energetic center of apana again in the lower part of your abdomen. Slide your hands up your shin bones towards the bottom of your knees, and then straight arms and lengthen your torso out. Drop into forward fold again, support with the abdominal muscles. And then let's take Utkatasana, swing your arms forward. If you take the challenge, then come up onto a heel rise again. And take that heel rise all the way up into arms up. And exhale, heels come down and arms come down to the side. That was a very long cycle, so let's do this according to your own breath rhythm. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, Uttanasana with your arms straight and lengthen your torso out. Exhale, drop forward. Inhale, Utkatasana. By now it's your old friend. Heel rise if you can, and arms up and arms down. Beautiful. That was so lovely. Let's do it all over again. In breath, out breath. In breath, Utkatasana with concave back. Exhale, down we go. Inhale, let's take it up. Utkatasana, and heels are up. And keep them up all the way to standing straight and arms down. Good. Well, that's all been pretty intense. Let's do a little work in some standing poses. And Warrior One pose is a good place to start. Take right foot forward and left foot back. And when you've done that, then have space between the tops of the thighs. So that means your left foot is a little bit more to the left. With your hands onto your hips, we're going to take the right leg into a lunge position and right knee bends. But then from there, see if you can draw the patella and the thigh bone back into your hip. For me, that's a really nice movement because it squares the hips without that being such a mechanical movement. So we're doing it, drawing the right hip back into the body. Slip your hands and palpate the outside of your hips and feel the outer hips compact and into the midline of your body. And then from there, bring your hands to the back of your head. So clasp your hands at the back base of your head and then tilt your chin up and feel like your head, when it's cradled like this, it's easy to lengthen the back of the neck. So there you've got your slight back bend happening, or more than a slight back bend, but the head is supported. Keep that feeling and then extend the arms up towards the ceiling. Good. And then release your hands down, straighten that front leg. One
graceful transition, left foot to right foot and right foot back. Good. Get stable, get steady. With the front foot, keep your weight towards the base of the left foot big toe. And then let's take the lunge. So instead of letting the knee go over the ankle or the toes, draw the knee back. You don't even have to lift up to do that. And the thigh bone right back into the hip socket. Good. And then from there, and take that feeling of the neck adjustment and inhale and bring your arms up. Feel all the length at the back of your neck from C7 to the base of your skull, as though somebody was helping you, lifting there. And then lift the core of the heart. And then exhale down. And let's step up, right foot to left, and left foot back. Then adjust for your distance between the tops of your thighs. And let's do a little vinyasa or movement with arms and your lunge. So on the inhalation, bend your front knee and draw the arms into goalpost position, so your elbows out to the side. And then exhale, lower your arms, straighten your front leg. Let's go again. Inhale and looking up, and exhale, and straight leg and straight arms. Keep going like that for your own cycles. Make the pose your own. What you might experiment with is bringing the elbows back in the bent arm position a little bit more and feeling into your upper part of your back. And last one. And elbows back a little bit and chest lifted high. And then releasing to the other side. Good. Watch those transitions when you're stepping up or stepping back, because they're as much as part of the pose and your attention as the pose being in the pose itself. So here we go with movement in your own time. When you bend that front leg, feel like you're drawing the thigh bone back still. When you bend your elbows, feel like you're drawing the elbows back a little bit more than your hands. And this time, in planning for the transition, one graceful step forward, both feet together. And last round of the vinyasa, and left foot back, we're going to add Parsvattanasana, a forward bend. So starting from where you've been in the lunge, and the arms in goalpost, and then we're going to straighten that front leg, mostly straighten, and then dive forward and your hands down to your leg. And keep moving, and inhale and back to warrior one, and then straight legs, straight arms by your side. And the whole cycle is animated with your breath. And just one more. And more than ever, keep your weight towards the big toe base of the right foot. So that keeps that ankle strong. You need that firmness. And then stepping up and right foot back. Think of what you're doing as a flow, and the breath is what allows for that.
Then last one, and remember the thigh bones coming back. And forward bend, lift up through the lower abdomen. And when you come out this time and step up, we're going to test our balance finally with Vrishkasana, with tree pose. So if you like, be near to a wall space for balance if you think that you need that, or free balancing. Let's start from Tadasana and have your feet just a little bit apart. Place the flat of your palms against your outer hips and do a little sag to the left side. So flexing your right knee slightly and allowing your left hip to sag to the right side. Left side. And then back to center. And let's do that in reverse and flexing your left knee a little bit, your hips sagging to the right side. So that's what we don't want to do as we get into the pose, or as much as possible avoid. Coming back to center and keeping the left hip close into the body, then merely lift your right heel. So you can take this as far as you want. And when you're ready, lifting your right knee towards your chest and placing your right foot along your left leg wherever you like. So it might be toes still on the floor, calf muscle, thigh muscle. Now if you've taken the right foot onto your left thigh, what invariably happens is the left hip kicks out into that sag position. So pull it into your body, keep your footprint strong, and if you are well balanced there, that is physically, maybe mentally, emotionally too, then bring your hands into the front of your chest in prayer pose. You might lose your balance at that point, like I've just done, but don't give up. And then release and lower that leg. And come back to Tadasana, home base, relax shoulders, and then transfer your weight onto your right foot. Take all the time that you need to lift up your left foot onto your right thigh or somewhere along the leg. And then adjust for the outer right hip. Want that right hip to pull into the body so you feel very compact through the hips. And then if you're ready to, and only if so, you can bring your hands together or even overhead. Good. And then let it all go. And both feet on the floor. And give your feet a bit of a shake out. And then pull your chair back in. And here you'll want to place it against a wall space. Then happily lie down in front of the chair. When you're lying on your back, then your legs lifted up onto the seat of the chair. Now, sometimes this pose is nicknamed Chair Shavasana, but we're not at that point just yet. We've got a little bit more work to do. Try on here. Let's explore having your hips right in towards the chair and grab the front legs of the chair. When you get a good grip like that, then it's easy to pull your shoulders down and your shoulder blades down towards your back waist. And that the kind of thoracic bend there, the back of your chest, is like a little back bend again. And then release from the chair.
And we're going to do our bridge poses with the um, help of the chair. So push back about 10 centimeters away from the back of the chair, or sorry, from the seat of the chair. So you don't have to hold the chair legs here. You've got a little distance there. And then slide your heels in closer towards you. I'm going to bring them close enough to me so that I can hook the arches of my feet onto the edge of the chair. And then if I push strongly into the chair, I can lift off. Hips come up a little or a little more if you wish. So be careful of your neck here. So you want to put pressure onto your neck. Keep your chin lifted a little bit and then lower back down. Let's go there again. So reading your body and seeing if you're prepared to come up again, using the thrust of your legs to come up. And as you lift up, keep the stretch at the front thigh muscles, the quadriceps, from your hip bones to your knees. And that simple movement of stretch there activates the back of your legs, your hamstrings to lift up. And then once again, make sure that the front neck is relaxed and lower back down. Let's do that for the third time. And taking care of your back. Imagine that you've got the block there between your knees, which are hip width distance. Feel into the outside of your hips again, like literally feel there the compactness of your hips. And then if you like and you want to take the next challenge, then balance just on your left foot, lift off your right foot, bring it towards you, and like you did in the early warm-up, extend the right leg up towards the ceiling. At this point, you might be able to lift up a little bit higher. And then folding that leg back in. Now, see if you can keep the sway of the hips minimal. Keep your right foot strong, and then lifting off left foot, left leg extension, and then going back to the chair. You could experiment and make this a little bit more of a shoulder stand by bringing your hands onto your upper buttocks or even your back waist. And if that feels too strong for you, in any case, we're all going to come down and rolling down, each vertebra touching down individually, which is almost impossible, but just noticing where your back moves the most freely, or it feels quite compacted. And then bring your legs onto the seat of the chair. And if you like, then scoot in a little bit more if you want more support for your legs. And we'll do, and it's possibly an easier release here, the hip release. So as you bend your right knee into your chest now, allow that right knee to turn out and place the left foot onto your right thigh. I don't know if this has a proper name, maybe a physiotherapy name, but we're just working to stretch the outer hip muscles. So as you've done that, then I notice for my own body, and this might be true for you, there's a swing to the right side. So see if you can even the hips again, so it feels like you're lying just right center of your sacrum. And then flex that right foot. When you do that, you're drawing the toes back towards the right knee, and drawing out through the heel bone. And let's go second side. So we're counterposing some of the work, the heavy lifting that we did before. And when you place your left foot onto your right thigh, I've got it kind of mid-thigh, not close to my knee or the hip. And then lift the buttocks a little bit and center the buttocks, the back buttocks and the sacrum onto the floor. Notice which side is tighter. Maybe you're one of the fortunate ones that's pretty even on both sides. And then flex that left foot and push out through the inner heel. And finally, both legs supported onto the floor, onto the seat of the chair again. And taking a rest. There's something particularly nice about this pose to notice before we get into much of a relaxed state, is that the thigh bones are here suspended and just completely relaxed from knee to hip. And that allows you then to relax the buttock muscles and the little tiny muscles around the sitting bones. Pubococcygeal muscles, I think they're called. A fancy name. All right, and then let's move on to our inversion. So bringing your legs in towards you and then rolling to the one side. Help yourself up. And we're going to do legs up the wall. And what you might want to do is elevate your hips onto a bolster. But it's just fine if you prefer to have your buttocks flat on the ground. I'll use a bolster. So, taking a belt along with you, you might use that strap to keep your legs together, which means that you use very little effort yourself to keep your legs together, which is a very nice thing as we move into a quieter and more reflective part of the class, a restorative pose. Now, there's a lot of toing and froing as you get into the pose so that you know your buttocks are very close and even touching the wall, and more of the backs of your legs is supported. But then when you do that, you may have tightened up through the front of your neck, t-shirt suffocation. So make sure that the base of your throat and the whole of the front of your neck feels relaxed again. And find your optimum position for your arms. It's quite nice to rest your hands onto your diaphragm ribs and feel your breath when it is slow and steady like this. Or your arms overhead. It's a little bit more active to have your arms and shoulders stretching. But it gives a little more elevation to your heart. Or your arms like they are when you do your yoga shavasana. Resting your legs. imagining or even sensing the venous blood flow from your feet and pooling at the navel center and spilling over to the chest, the heart, the lungs, and that base of your throat. And the head finally here, subservient to the heart. And if it happens, as invariably it seems to happen, if thoughts of planning, organizing begin to creep in, let's see if you'd be willing to put that to the side and come back to your trusty breath. If you like, lengthen the exhalations just a little bit. That gives the feeling, the sensation of surrender. There comes a time when we have to move on from the goodness of the pose, and it doesn't mean we have to let go of it, but just when you're ready, then flex your knees a little bit and slide back from the wall or slide off your bolster to the floor. So that when you've done that, you can rest the legs into cross leg, or I've got my legs in Baddha Konasana and the knees dropping out to the side. It's quite nice to have the support of the bolster underneath my legs and let my legs drop into the softness of the prop. And taking these slow steps to come out of the pose completely and eventually to a seated position where we can sit together to complete our practice. So let's do that. Let us sit together to finish. And when we do this, and join hands in prayer position in front of the chest, or a nice variation is to rest both hands onto the heart center, then we're repeating a ritual that's done right around the world in many, many cultures and in many, many yoga practices. And let's invest the gesture with freshness and feel into the meaning of Anjali Mudra. We draw nearer to our essential self, and as a sign of respect and loving ourselves, then we can, from that deep well of love and goodness, extend that out to everyone, and to everyone here, and to everyone generally. We say namaste, and thank you. Thank you for practicing with me.